Okay, well, I'm obviously in a different location in the office today, so I wanted to pick up a little bit more on what we started to discuss in terms of, Hodgetts and some of the things we had introduced. So hopefully there is no thunderstorm, lightning storm, or something that's going to happen here. Let me try and screen share, and let's pick up where we left off. And again, I doubt if we will get through everything today, but let's kind of pick up where we left off. And, leadership, and again, it's a bit of a moving target, and I think we all recognize that. So, part of what I want to do is compare and contrast a little bit. If you're familiar with my CV, you know that I worked for, again, one of the major Japanese firms on the planet for almost 10 years, not quite. And, first as a direct employee, and then later, we changed our relationship a bit because I started my own enterprise and affiliated that way. But anyway, the point being that differences in leadership, and you've heard the expression, context is everything. Context is everything. And it really is so. So when you look at some of the stereotypical things, and Hodgetts, puts up over here, Japanese leadership approach is well known for its paternalistic approach to leadership. That's certainly truer with some, as you might imagine, with some individuals, than others. The culture itself promotes this idea of high safety and security. And, this is where we start to look at Hofstede, and we start to look at things like risk aversion and so forth. Americans, and these are stereotypes and generalizations, but Americans are great risk takers. Look at the inventiveness of the 20th century leading up to the 21st century. The patents, the ideas, the inventions, the risks that were taken, the entrepreneurs, the creators, the tech gurus, the garagetronics outfits that became other things, other entities, world influencer entities. Well, so Japanese culture is a little more conservative. And again, this is not about right, wrong, good or bad. It's about difference and trying to understand difference and differences. High need for security. So in other words, risk averse, not risk seeking. And, country-based employees as well as expatriates or expatriates, if you prefer, from multinational entities. There's always this friction. So Japanese managers generally have much greater belief in the capacity of subordinates for leadership and for initiative than do managers in most countries. The slide suggests that only managers in Anglo-American countries had stronger feelings in this area. I'm not sure how genuine that is. Certainly not today. But let me give you an example. And this is an example of a leadership experience. So one of the things that, and I was much younger, much more fit, making an awful lot of money in what we did, factory automation, robotics, so on and so forth. I used to play tennis sometimes 3 nights a week with my, in quotes, Japanese boss. Very, very intelligent human being. We all Americanized them in the sense that we gave them American names. So this gentleman, Mamoru Tsuji, whom we named Mike, so Mike Tsuji, very, very smart guy, had been teaching until recently at Stanford, absolutely brilliant. Had a great understanding not only of being a leader, but how to deal with people. I'll give you a case in point. So we played tennis, 3 nights a week, and we developed quite a rapport. And I was a stereotypical three-piece suit, Mercedes, Cadillac Eldorado kind of American, going out to do business on behalf of a major international Japanese player. I really thought about who I was. I mean, man, look at me. And making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for this firm or these two firms. I mean, I was just really something. And I thought how great it is to be able to stand out in front of my bosses and really deliver the goods, bring home the bacon, whatever cliche. Until I realized, and this is later on, that in Japanese society, the idea of belonging, the idea of being part of a team is important. This is where we get Hofstein, individualism versus collectivism. Well, Japanese culture is more collectivist than it is individualist. So here, for example, we reward LeBron, we reward Michael Jordan, Steph Curry, my personal favorite. I mean, that guy can just, we'll talk about that another day. But we reward these individuals because they stand out. Well, that was me, not on the court, of course, but in automation, in robotics, in systems design and development, in bringing it into the Fortune 200 companies on the planet. Played tennis, and, I won, he won, whatever. And afterwards, he would typically look over and say, "Oh, Johnson, you want to take steak?" And what he was saying is, and this was at the Maywood Racket Club in New Jersey, around 17 there. And in Maywood, there was a little small Japanese restaurant, hibachi grills upstairs and all this stuff, called Ichiban. And so I said, yeah, let's do that. So we would go out to dinner and we'd sit at, sit around the, whatever it is, the flat top there, that, the grill or the griddle, whatever the hell that thing is. And, so they're cutting up the steak and cutting up this and, blah, blah, blah. Well, we've seen that on TV. And I started eating, and of course, almost from day one, I'm used to working with chopsticks. It's not an issue. So sitting there eating, and he's watching. He's eating, and he's watching. He's eating, and he's watching. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is he looking at? I have something hanging or something like this. So I grabbed hold of a piece of steak that was probably 3 pieces, not cut all the way through. Grabbed it with the chopsticks, and I didn't want to fumble it and try and separate these. So I just put the whole thing in my mouth, and I started chewing on it. And so my mouth is closed. Very quickly, he puts the chopsticks down, and he leans over to me and says, "Oh, Johnson, just one thing." And he proceeded to tell me what behavior or behavior mechanism I had employed in a particular that he was not fond of. Now, here's a smart guy, because he knew that if you confront me, especially then, when I was young, hugely arrogant and so forth, he knew that if he confronted me and said, "Look, good SOB, you do this again, well, it's go time. I'm ready." All right. And he didn't want the confrontation, yet he wanted to make his point. So how did he do it? I'm a fan of tennis, or certainly was then. I'm a fan of food, which, if you've met me personally, you know that I haven't missed a meal, no time recently. So we go out and I'm eating. I love steak, love Japanese food, Japanese culture. Get a big piece of steak, so I can't reply. Leans over, he delivers his message. Bang, done. And by the time I could chew and swallow, we were already onto something else. I thought to myself, you smart son of a bitch. He knew enough to know who I was, and that if it was a direct confrontation, it was going to have a negative outcome. And so he engineered a way to make his point, drop it, end it. Now, from your studies, I'm sure you can identify some of the leadership traits and characteristics involved. But here's my point. One of the things that is requisite for an effective leader is to understand those that you're dealing with, your employees, your compatriots, your comrades, your colleagues. Understand them. Take a genuine interest so that you can deal individually with each person. 12 o'clock high. What was the phrase? Over familiarization with his men. And so Gregory Peck, in his role as General Savage, goes in as a hard ass, by the book. This is how it's going to be. What happens near the end? That same familiarization. He humanized himself. These individuals aren't just numbers. So there was a tremendous amount of leadership growth and leadership change there. With Mike Suji, there was a tremendous amount of leadership that I learned from observing him and how he dealt with people. Again, to reemphasize the point, you must take a genuine interest as a leader in the people that you're dealing with. Understand them and deal with them on that basis. There is no one size fits all. There is no, well, they, who is they? You know, that group there, that kind of person there, that gender there. Really? They're all the same because they share a culture, they share a religion, they share a gender. Seriously? So leadership requires an awful lot of introspection, an awful lot of thought. So continuing, differences between Japanese and US, except for internal control, large US firms tend to be more democratic than smaller ones. You can read this. Pay a little bit of attention to this theory Z and how that comes into play, because we'll talk about that at another point also. I'm not going to go through these things. I hope you will spend the time going through Hodgetts' slides here and so forth. But again, we look at that matrix that we saw earlier that, is on one axis, high and low people, and on another axis, high and low task or mission or whatever. And the key is really being able to make those associations in the context of culture, in the context of environment. Sunshine, rain, bug and butterflies? No. Environment. Political, legal, regulatory, cultural, social, technological, economic, and other. So you get the idea. Again, I don't want to spend a tremendous amount of time going through all these things. I hope you will. When Hodgetts speaks to this idea of leadership in China, you notice a little bit of Hofstede here. Kurt Hofstede, individualism, collectivism, and of course, in their context, Confucianism. Okay, so we have other things to be concerned with. And I'm going to let you step through some of these things, and we're going to talk about idealized influence, inspirational motivation, and intellectual stimulation at our next video. So let me stop share. And let's go right back to the screen here. I hope you are doing the reading. I hope you're doing the watching. I hope you're doing a little bit of the writing. One of our peers asked if, for example, 12 o'clock high as an example, is that really an in-depth paper? And my preference is that you do an analysis. Now, an analysis is not an essay. We're not talking about a page and a half of nonsense here. If you can, tall order, if you can translate what you would do in terms of analysis into the discussion board, then by all means do that. But don't come up short. Don't sell yourself short. Analysis. And again, it's not your opinion on 12 o'clock high. That's not what an analysis is. We're looking to analyze the characteristics, the behaviors, the leadership styles, things like that, against the backdrop of our reading. All right, that's my ding. Time to go. We'll add another session here shortly. Enjoy your day. Blessings to all, and we are done.